prepare students to succeed in life. The vision of the Pioneer School Districts is high levels of learning for all, every child, every day. First, are there any requests to address the board? No written requests either? Okay. Up next, do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to recommend that number 12, executive session, be moved down after number 14. So that after the board share, then the board can move to executive session, and we'll move you to a classroom, and then you can come out and finish up with getting out of executive session and then adjourning the meeting.
Excellent. Do we have a second?
I second.
Excellent. Thank you. That has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. So that change has been made, and executive session will be the final thing on the meeting before adjournment.
Could I make a request, under the consent agenda, the number B on approval of handwriting math adoption for grades K-8? It says it's an action item. Could we, because they're presenting it tonight, could we, like wait till after the presentation before we decide if we're going to vote on that?
So the presentation will be before you take the action item. So the presentation will happen at number 7B,
Right.
and the action item should be number 11. So it's not part of the
To be able
consent.
to have like, the discussion.
Oh, yes,
after
you can ask questions
after
during
we
the
hear
presentation.
Presentation.
Yes,
Before voting on it,
Yeah.
is what I guess
Right.
what I'm gonna do.
and then on 11B, you would take action.
Okay.
All right. So then is there approval of the regular meeting agenda? Sorry, can I have a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda?
Motion to.
I move that we approve the regular meeting agenda as written.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Up next, number 6, approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. It has been moved and seconded. Cruising right along. Up next, we actually have presentations. So up first, we have the elementary school STEM program.
Okay, please, oops, are we on? Please bear with me. This is my first time using Google. All righty, and I will share my whole screen. Or no, here we go. Excellent.
There she is.
Nice.
Okay, hello, everyone. My name is Heidi Haig. I am indeed the elementary STEM teacher. And I put together a short little presentation for you all about our STEM program. We are focusing on growing together to change the 21st century. So in order to really understand what our STEM program is about, we need to know what STEM is. STEM is an acronym for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Education. It is an interdisciplinary approach that helps students succeed in college and in their future careers. The focus of a STEM education is hands-on, problem-based learning. So why the push for STEM? STEM jobs have grown 79% in the last 30 years alone and are projected to grow twice as fast as all other jobs by 2031. In 2021, STEM jobs accounted for median incomes that were more than double that of non-STEM jobs. So here are a few examples of some STEM jobs that I found listed under the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics recently for a class I've been taking. IT specialists, cloud data specialists, and cloud administrators average $128,000 a year with a projected 13% job growth by 2030. Pediatric rheumatologists, biostatisticians, epidemiology managers have a median salary of $78,520 a year with a projected growth rate of 27% by 2032. These are just a few of the examples that I have, and as you can see, that is a huge projection of growth, especially if we want our students to have careers that are livable wages and to really grow and have a future. So what are some of the ways that I, as a teacher, with my help and my administration, encourage STEM fields? One way is by participating in a program called the Amazon Future Engineers, which allows us to do virtual field trips and to interact virtually with people who are a part of STEM fields. Recently, I showed most of my 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders something called 15 Weirdest STEM Jobs on YouTube, just to get them excited and interested in possible STEM jobs. Or with my younger students, STEM careers from A to Z, just giving them an opportunity to think of different careers. We've been exploring different science disciplines. We are definitely involved in community partnerships, and we really and truly focus on authentic hands-on learning. So in science and math, one of the things that we did this year was study the Elwha River dam removals that happened about 20 years ago, and studied the reclamation of the areas where the dams were removed. My older students, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, got to talk about the pros and the cons and truly understand that the decisions that we make today in good faith, thinking that we have the best science, may change in the future. We also meet math and science together in the Eagle Garden. We have our square foot gardening beds, and here you see my students stringing up the beds and getting them ready for their square foot sections. We're learning to give back to the earth by adding amendments to the soil and figuring out how much to add to each bed. Here with, I think these are 1st or 2nd graders here in this picture. Also, of course, one of the beautiful things about our particular property is having the wildlife and the joy that one of our littles saw, being able to pick up the little frog and truly have hands-on life science. Okay, so what are some of the other skills that we learn in STEM? Critical thinking. Hey, Miss H, is this a weed? Okay, again, hands-on life science. However, it's not just about the garden. As much as we love the garden, there are other aspects to STEM. Throughout the years, students work on engineering projects, such as creating marble mazes and fences to hold the 5 little pumpkins with our kindergartners. I'm sure you guys are probably aware of the 5 little pumpkins sitting on the gate poem. Here the kids are recreating their own pumpkin gates. Also, we were gifted by the wonderful Pickering Community Club 18 Ozobots, little coding robots. 14 coding mice were purchased by our building and are used by the students in K through 2nd grade. So that brings us to 500 K through 5 students learning coding basics in multiple programming formats. The Ozobots, we've been using color coding. The coding mice, we do directional coding. I have to say that I have never seen the students so engaged as when doing our coding projects together. So coding also serves as a way of collaborating together with authentic problem solving. What you don't see here in the picture of I think these are first graders, is that they are trying to recreate a maze that is on a picture card and having to build it themselves And then afterwards, they are going to have to program the little purple mouse in this little guy's hand right here to get through the maze that they have created. Coding is also an example of critical thinking, one of the 4 C's of STEM. And again, authentic problem-solving skills. When we did our Code and Go mice, we talked about how they had to follow the blueprint, much like an architect or builder creates a blueprint, follows the blueprint, and nothing can be different than what is on the blueprint without catastrophic things happening. So as I explained before, we talk about STEM as career and college exploration, having an idea of what you want to do, not being locked in to what you're going to do for the rest of your life, but just exploring it. I'm going to send around in just a second some papers that either 1st or 2nd grade did after we had talked about different career options, and they had to fill out a little sheet of paper and draw a STEM career I'm interested in, why, and then draw a matching picture. So in a moment, I will pass that out to you. And most importantly, STEM is a community partnership. In my classes and getting my master's degree in STEM education, over and over and over again, there has been an emphasis on the importance of STEM as a collaboration between all stakeholders. That means you, that means our volunteers, that means our families, that means our administration, and community members and businesses in the community. This list right here is a short list of some of the community members, community organizations rather, that have helped us in the last 6 months to a year. They include the WSU Extension Mason County Master Gardeners, the Mason Conservation District, the WSU Extension Mason County SNAP Ed, WSU Extension Mason County Small Farms, Pacific Education Institute, otherwise known as PEI, our irrigation volunteers, the Old Agate Buffalo Farm, the South Sound Tree Fruit Society, the Kiwanis, the Pickering Garden Club, our volunteer school garden educators, and the Harstine Island Garden Club. So I'd like to, before I pass things out, read this quote to you. It sums up exactly how I feel. No investment in STEM education is too big or small. We must invest in it always. Our investment in it will pave way for future growth in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I would like to add a little caveat to that. It's not just the disciplines that you are paving a way for future growth in, also for our students and their future families. Thank you so much for supporting STEM here in Pioneer. We absolutely can't do it without you. So as I mentioned, I'm just going to go ahead and pass around a folder that has a few things in it that our students have created, just a very small sampling, and also a couple diagrams. Kindergarten, oh, I hope I have it. Okay. Kindergarten was doing today diagramming the parts of a flower. And in 2nd grade today, we were diagramming the different layers of soil. Are there any questions before I sit down?
I have a question. How are the kids, how are you involved with the kids? Do you take them for a period or? Yeah,
So I have a really interesting job. I get every student except for preschool in the building for 30 minutes once a week. So Monday through Thursday. And then on Fridays, we have a rotating schedule so that I see each class one more time in the month. So I do get all 500 kids on a cart
great.
in their classrooms.
I don't have a question, but it sounds really fun. Thanks for all your hard work there. I hope the kids are loving it as much as I loved your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank you,
you.
Heidi. Nice job.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Repeat your vote at the end of the script.
But I won't remember what I said about the importance of the kids for long term. Okay, so the quote was, "No investment in STEM education is too big or small. We must invest in it always. Our investment in it will pave way for future growth in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics."
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. Up next, we have the math committee adoption recommendation with iReady.
No, Heidi's so eloquent that I'm nervous to follow that lovely presentation. My name's Keely Etlow. So I kind of was charged with bringing our two schools together to look at math curriculum K-8. So I have a couple people from our team here. We had Nicole Toy and Mackenzie Noble join from our building, as well as Kathleen Peck, kind of representing the SPED department. And then at the middle school, we had Elizabeth Ward and Chris Jonker, who were busy tonight, so they were unable to attend. But what we ended up doing was we kind of reached out to the two buildings and saw who was interested in joining our committee. We met together the first time and went through research. In fact, the two ladies were kind enough to bring some curriculum for you guys to look at. So if you give it to them, if you'd like to look through it as we present about it, you guys are welcome to. They don't have to stand and hold it. And then they are welcome to jump in and answer questions or intervene with me as well. So right now you've got 5th grade and 3rd grade there, and that's the current year's iReady curriculum. So we started the process by going onto EdReports and using OSPI and looking at what is out there, what's meeting standard, what's easy for teachers to use, students to use. So EdReports is a really nice online platform that rates curriculum. Basically, they do a report about different curriculums, and you can go through and see, does it meet standards, usability, reliability, all of those different pieces. So we met, they went through the different reports. We came out with three curriculums that we were interested in looking into more. iReady being one of them, as well as Envision, which is through Savvis, and Houghton Mifflin into math. So after we narrowed it down to our top 3, we ordered samples of the other curriculums. iReady we already had. So we did things a little different with them. So we got the samples of Into Math, as well as online. They opened up their online platform so that we could look at their online materials as well. Sorry, moving the thing around. And had those come in. I gave the samples to all of the different grade levels so that they could look at the materials. They had time during PLC to discuss and dig into them and provide feedback, which then came to our team and we kind of discussed the feedback. And so the Into Math, we kind of tabled pretty quickly. It was very, I don't want to say old fashioned, that's probably not the word that I'm looking for, but dry, kind of. It didn't really catch anyone's interest as being an engaging, easy to use curriculum that kids would be excited about. Envision did have a little bit more meat and potatoes to it that we looked into a little bit more. What was nice is that they sent samples for every single grade level, and we had a couple teachers that had used it in previous districts, so we had some feedback from them. And really what it came down to is that they were very, very similar. Both could offer the same benefits. What we liked about iReady is when I talked to our local ESDs, a lot of neighboring schools are either adopting or have just adopted iReady. So especially looking at North Mason and Shelton, it looks like North Mason, there's a high probability that they will be adopting iReady this year. I know Shelton is looking at it as well. So trying to keep that continuity between neighboring districts was not like a huge factor, but it was something that we wanted to be cognizant of because we do share kids with North Mason and Shelton. So trying to keep some continuity there. So that wasn't, like I said, not a huge factor, but a consideration for sure. So we ended up getting that feedback. We also had both curriculums out at conferences, right up front. So that table actually, I think, is where the middle school had their curriculum laid out. And we had it right up front by our double doors so that parents could look at it, flip through it, provide feedback. Most of the feedback we got was just, the kid really likes iReady. So, but we did have a lot of families that at least took the time to flip through the books and look at it. So even if it wasn't written feedback, I know Jesse and Izzy were fielding some questions about it. I'm sure there was probably some questions or interest at least over here as well. And so what it came down to is with iReady, we already had the materials, so we didn't need to order samples. But what we did do is have someone come in and explain what is getting updated in the future, what could they provide for us to kind of have that selling point. They've just updated the K-1 curriculum this year to include more center things, which was really exciting. Next year, they're updating the iReady platform, which is the individualized online instruction piece. For the middle school, they're supposed to make it more middle school friendly. In his words, less babyish. So, trying to increase that engagement. They've really been listening to teacher feedback over the last few years and have included a thing called Fluency Flight, which opened up for our kids this year, which is matter of fact, just fluency practice that they can do online. And, there's kind of that piece where we've had iReady for these last 6 years. Why would we want to continue with it? But really, we adopted iReady in 2018 and had 2 years where we had strong professional development, and then COVID hit. And as much as we like to say there is strong instruction online, there wasn't strong instruction online. I was teaching online. I get it. It was hard. So really getting back into what that curriculum can provide, I think because of just the transitions and the turnover and all of the pieces that have happened in these last 4 years, there's a lot that I don't think our teachers even know iReady has available to them. When we met with the trainer, I think every single teacher in there was like, oh, it can do that, or it has this component. And they're also doing some pacing so that we can accelerate our 7th graders who might be ready to do algebra in 8th grade. They've created a pacing guide that would allow us to do 7th and 8th grade combined math for those kids who are ready to be pushed, and get them into 8th grade algebra, which would be super exciting. In fact, they're even getting ready to release iReady has an algebra curriculum that they're going to be releasing, he said, in 2025. So that could be something that we look into and even potentially pilot for them next year if we are interested. And another piece that they are willing to provide for us because we've had it is more individualized in-classroom professional development, which was also, I think, a good selling point for our teachers. It won't just be the stand in front of you for a day and teach you about the curriculum, because we do know a good chunk of it. It'll be, here's the stuff you probably don't know or you haven't been using and why we should be using it with integrity. And now we're going to go into your classrooms and we're going to help you lesson plan it, and we're going to meet with your PLCs and provide feedback on what we're seeing in your classrooms when you're teaching it. So they're really willing to offer us some individualized professional development that would really improve our instruction and move our teachers forward in the right direction. So I think all of those kinds of factors came into play, and we decided at our last meeting that iReady was going to be the best fit for our staff and for our students. And I think just the community in whole, the families are familiar with it, and they've got that basis, and now we've just got to elevate it and lift it to what it truly can do for our kids.
Thank you for bringing in the books so we could look through them. It was interesting my daughter has used it, right? So I was very familiar with the program and she loves it. I think, is that the one where you can go online at home too? Yeah, she asks to do that regularly. that and Math Fact Lab. She likes them both. I really like being able to look at the glossary and stuff because I didn't know before, but there's like, the glossary has it in English and Spanish, which I think is amazing because you're able to kind of help support other families where maybe English is a second language, and you have that opportunity to provide like support to a broader group of people, which I think is awesome because sometimes that's a missed component. So I was really happy to see that in there. But also I mean, it's worked really well for her, and I know that I've heard positive feedback from the teachers as well. So I'm excited to see that you guys are wanting to move forward with this one.
I know, yeah, I love the Spanish piece because every unit comes home with a needy parent letter and you get it from both directions, like one side's English, one side's Spanish. So that is very cool. And I know it's still really one of the top performing math curriculums out there. The district I worked in previous to this adopted it my last year there, and my daughter got to be in the pilot classroom. And compared to what they had in North Kitsap prior to adopting it, like she was gung ho. And so when I came out here, it was very exciting because yeah, it's an exciting curriculum. They've got some really cool components and they're working hard to just continuously improve it.
Yeah.
So our youth that are below grade level, is this going to be, are you using it right now? Is this going to be able to?
Everything feels first to jump into, but yeah, this is our tier 1, so it hits everybody. And then do you guys want to talk about like iReady and how that kind of helps?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the year, they take a diagnostic that puts them at their grade level where they're starting at. And then when they get online, they're on what's called MyPath, which is tailored just to that student based on how they score. And so every time they get on, they're working on their lessons. Regardless of what we're doing as a full class, they're still targeting those areas that they need to work on.
And challenging them for like things that if they're like at a certain spot that, you know, they'll keep presenting the material that continues to challenge their growth, which I think is, I mean, as a parent with a daughter going through it, I really appreciate that because it challenges her and keeps her engaged so that she's not kind of like waiting. If she's like finished with this lesson, you know, she's ready, she can just keep on trucking. So.
And it's great that they can do it at home too. It's not just you have to do it at school. They can go on and log on online and do some work at home. So if you're ever on a family vacation, here's some iReady that you could do from the hotel room. There's options there.
Is there ever any schools that are using this?
I came from Southside last year, another neighboring district, and they used it there as well and loved it there. And I'm not sure exactly how long they've been using it, but I know that they really like it. I was happy that you guys had it here too.
When I talked to ESD 114, it was one of the ones that's used, which they're more Bremerton, Central, South. It's one of the main ones that's being used out there. 113's never contacted me back, so I'm not sure in our ESD what's really out there. I know I've some insider information that says, like I said, North Mason's most likely adopting it this year, or at least it's a heavy contender in their adoption because they're in the process of adopting math this year. And our trainer that came in from iReady kind of made it sound like maybe Shelton might be leaning that direction too, but I don't have, no one from the district has told me specifically that.
Are the workbooks expendable materials? So.
Consumables, yes, we have to replace them each year.
I appreciate that you guys are, looking at the future as well as like we've been using it for the past like 8 years, like you said. And I noticed it's been really well liked when I read reviews about it online. It's hard to find negative reviews and stuff like that. So, did you get many negative reviews from parents at all, or are they mostly all just really positive? Because I always like that they have the app and all that you can do at home.
We got, the feedback that we received was mostly just kind of my kid likes using it, or I've seen this at home. Nothing negative by any means, but I can't say there was also a plethora of feedback to dig through. So
Are they, the students are excelling very well with this program here because they enjoy it? Would you say that?
I think there's a lot of promise and potential in it. Like I said, I think there's a lot right now that we just don't know because of COVID and all of the missed opportunities. I think it's a positive program and I think kids like it and the teachers like it. And I think once we get some more professional development and get to know it again and really dig into what it is, I think it's just gonna go that much bigger and that much better. Because I think right now we just have a lot of people who don't know what they don't know. And it's no fault of their own. It's just huge turnover, COVID, lack of training, all of those things kind of pile up.
And so then the program trainers, will they be coming in and like, I think you mentioned it, but I was kind of reading at the same time. So they'll be coming in like periodically to go over all these cool new things happening with the program. For the
So what's
teachers?
cool about iReady is they said they do 2 years of professional development. And so we'll get like the back in school in August, here's your curriculum, get to know it type generic kind of PD. But then, yeah, they also are offering us some like in the classroom, they'll watch teachers teach it, provide feedback and then say, here's suggestions or tips or tricks to how to improve it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Teacher's manual, really thorough.
Yes.
Yeah, really thorough. It's like, it's everything that you would need and more.
Online component has even more details and stuff and reports we can pull to support kids who are at that lower end as well.
That's cool. Awesome. Any other questions or anything? All right, thanks you guys.
Thank you.
Oh,
And we'll grab your books at the end unless you need them now or now.
Yeah.
I just need to make sure my teachers get those back because they're actually teaching with those.
you can snag them if you want, that's fine.
You can come up, get them.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'd hate for leave to leave my teachers high and bad.
All right, up next we have principal report. I think starting with elementary for that one also. That's fair.
Hard to follow. Did great. So just last month at the elementary school, we had a great band and choir concert. If you weren't there for it, it was amazing. And it's just really cool to see that, you know, we just started band last year, just how far, Dan has done a great job with it. Just the kids when they're playing the music and it was a really nice concert. And to hear them after school, especially like in September to now, it's just amazing because they were just really good. Just want to give that out to Deanna. So we had our band and choir concert. We had our annual assembly on honesty. The really cool thing about it was we have our after school, we call it the Fight Club. I've mentioned, I think last month. It's our ASP like leadership class. And what they did is they've decided that, and which I love, they decided that instead of me using the wonderful videos I find online to talk about honesty, they created their own video. So it was really cool and kind of organic that the kids, you know, like we use that video to talk about honesty. So they're interviewing kids and stuff. So we're gonna incorporate that a lot more. And I just felt like it gave us another level to our assembly, just trying to teach kids about the positive traits to have. We do have STEM Garden Night coming up on May 30th. And so I'll send you a presentation on what we do at STEM, but to actually be able to come in and kind of see stuff in action. That is our math/STEM night, garden night on the 30th. Have some food, have some games, have some good times. So more to that to come. We're still planning it, but you know, Heidi's involved. That's great. I believe I talked about this last month. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. Attendance is something that we've really been working on. We're really trying to get kids to attend school. So we did come up with some attendance incentives. They're gonna slime Haley. No, I didn't like force her to do it. This is like something she wanted to
I am
do.
so excited to be
She's
flying.
excited.
You're not coming to school.
So we have that out there for them. If we can get 10 days with 95% attendance, which that's where we need to be. Then if we have 10 days in a row, then at the next assembly, we will slime Jessie, she's our attendance secretary, and Ms. Edlow wanted to do that as well. So there'll be a slimy time at one of our parties, or one of our parties, but Sundays. So it'll be fun. Book fair, we had an awesome book fair this year. I think they were almost sold out, just 10,000 books. It was like, wow. So that was good. That was a great conference week. We had a wonderful conference week. Got to come in and meet a lot of parents and talk to kids about progress and just, celebrate our successes. So that was fun. And the other things on here, I think I got everything. So that's kind of a nutshell of March over at the elementary school. I'm sure there's like much other things I did, but I think right now.
I really liked the video at the assembly to be able to see that. It was really cool because you could tell that the students were engaged in it because they were seeing their peers and their teachers. And I think one of the bus drivers was in the video too. And like, it was really cool to be able to see the engagement that they got from seeing their friends on there and like the excitement when kids were like, oh, that's you up there. Like, that's pretty cool. It was really fun to see. For the attendance piece, how close are you to the 95% goal?
It depends on the day. So we've been as low as like 88% on some days and as high as like, I think we've hit like 95, maybe once or twice here or there. But it's usually like that low 90s is kind of where we're sitting. And we're hearing from families more consistently than we ever have been. So we're lowering that unexcused absence rate. But right now we've just got a lot of kids with icky stuff. Like lots of tummy things going around and fever things going around and like they're sick. I mean, it's that fine line of how do you, yes, we want them there, but no, we don't want them puking on people. So like, how do we find that right balance, right? Like,
That's fair.
yeah.
I think that's fair. Do you guys still reach out to parents and things like that for people who are struggling with attendance, kind of habitually?
Yep, so we are holding attendance meetings pretty much weekly with different families. We've got the community engagement board. We've got more families scheduled for after spring break. We've got a couple more families.
Sometimes they're not attending those. So.
A lot of, no call, no shows to those meetings. And what's hard at our age is that it's not a kid thing, it's a parent thing. And so, like I said, we are starting to hear from a lot of the families more regularly. So we're not having those high unexcused absence rates, but now it's just getting them, okay, well, your kid has a cough, that's understandable, but like based on health guidelines, we can be in school with allergy kind of like symptoms. Whereas, a year or two ago, the sniffles were cause for panic. Now, it's okay. They can have the sniffles and still be at school. So it's just retraining. Like I've had an attendance meeting this morning. I've got like 4 this week where we're meeting with families where it's starting to add up. So yeah, and Jessie's great. She uses Parent Square so that parents can call, they can email her directly, or she'll direct message through Parent Square and then they can direct message her back. So we've also been making sure that they're getting connected with that app because then it's almost like a text message back and forth in that text messaging thing. And a lot of the parents have found that messaging her that way has made it a lot easier.
That's cool. Yeah, I like the Parent Square app. It's a great place to just grab your information. So.
Meeting, I showcase it. I pull out my phone and say, look at how it looks. And I can toggle between the 2 schools and I can see middle school stuff and elementary stuff. And so I try to really like sales pitch it to the family so that they'll sign up and utilize it.
Nice. Cool. Any other comments or questions or anything? Okay, thanks guys. All right, middle school.
Good evening. I told one of my middle school ELA teachers that it was quite fitting that she was considering reading Lord of the Flies third trimester. Yes, it is definitely, the kids are looking forward to spring break. So that's just a little joke if you are familiar with that. You'd be aware of it. But I guess we do have plenty of good things to really talk about though. All jokes aside, We started off the month of March with having a family literacy night across both buildings. We didn't have as large of an attendance piece that had been rescheduled, but we did have, I think, a little over 100 over at the elementary school. Some of those trickled over here as well. And we had, how many do you think we had over here, Caroline? Do you know? Did you do a count?
15 maybe?
Yeah, I think maybe about 50 or so that came over into here and got corn dogs and things like that. So a little bit less attendance that we wanted, but still, again, being able to go through and have that. And then just looking forward to our math night that'll be coming up in May. And that's always a big hit. We also had our conferences. That was actually very well attended. Surprisingly, spring is often low for middle school attendance for conferences. The parents at that point in time either don't want to hear how their students are doing, or they feel like it's only a trimester left, they're going to be done with it very soon. So oftentimes we don't have as high of attendance in the spring as we do in the fall. But we actually had a very good attendance. We made sure every student was scheduled, and then we attempted to reach out as often as we could throughout the week to make sure that parents who may have missed an evening or a day of their conferences could come on a different day. And that actually worked in our favor to get additional parents in who may have forgotten about it, or something came up at the last minute. They didn't know that they could reschedule. So that was good. We did have actually 2 students who participated recently in a band competition that was at Tumwater Middle School. Both of them took a rating of superior in their competition. So that was incredible. We also had several students who competed in the regional science fair, and we are still waiting to hear what the scores are on those. But as soon as we know, then we will let you know. But we know we definitely had, Tim was thinking at least a first and a couple seconds for sure, which out of regionals, that means that they get to go on to state, which is very, very cool.
That's exciting.
To see that happen. And then overall, if we're looking at our building-wide practices, we are continuing to reinforce our tier 1 practice. You know, there is, if you know about the tier model, you know that 80% is that tier 1. Right? That's our 80% number. And then you go to your tier 2 and your tier 3 practices. And those are meant to hit a smaller, much smaller group of students who have some additional needs beyond what you'd offer at that tier 1 level. And there's a reason why it takes a lot of time and effort to build those tier 1 practices. And there is admittedly a part of me who would like to have said that by the time the end of this year rolled around, we had our tier 1 solidified. But we just did an inventory, for example, for our PBIS, and realized that there's still a lot of work to do. And although we're going to start to look at what tier 2 and tier 3 look like, we're not going to abandon what our tier 1 looks like, because it's not just students. It's really about us as educators getting on board and finding out what that consistency looks like. It looks like asking my teachers all the time, my classified staff, what support looks like for them. Because when I say support, I mean one thing, but when another teacher says support, it means something completely different. And then along with that comes the hardest part of all, is a culture shift. And we know that there is culture and there's climate, and culture is the practice that you put in, and climate is the way that it feels when you do so. And so as we are talking about some of these tier 1 practices and that integrity and that fidelity to tier 1 practices, we're looking at culture shifts. Things that we may have done. This is what, my 27th year here. So things that I know that we have done that feel very comfortable, but aren't always the best to do for students. And they aren't what's moving us forward. So this trimester, we started to feel like things were just being really hard. And then we got our GPA. And then I saw that our 4.0 students went from 9 4.0 students to 12 4.0 students. And then I saw that our students who were at a 3.5 GPA increased significantly. And then I started to see the GPA overall of many of our students increasing. And I began to realize that the things that we're doing that are just absolutely exhausting right now, because we're trying to put it together to make it work, to become that long-lasting legacy of who Pioneer is. Things like our Eagle Achievement every Tuesday and Thursday after school. We started our Saturday schools, which are twice a month, and we have up to 10 kids that sometimes have shown up to those. Looking at the after school is the Eagle Success, during the lunchtime of Eagle Achievement. And we now have kids, I had kids show up who weren't even signed up for it today. And I was like, where are these kids coming from? You're not even on my list. I mean, I'm not going to shoo you away, but definitely come in, whatever that looks like, They're getting used, the students automatically, what we know about the middle school brain is that it will rebel against the structure that we put in place because it needs to test the limits. That's just part of being a middle schooler. But once we've held to what we have committed to academically, those high rigorous standards, we have not lowered the expectations for students. We have not lowered what our GPA requirements are. We're starting to see that the students are rising to the occasion. We're starting to see that. And it's that little bit of a glimmer that it's like, oh, okay, I feel like the last 2 trimesters were incredibly difficult for us. And now we might be starting to see the payout of what that's going to look like. I had a student come up to me, and I'm going to end with this. We had the first week of our trimester last week. And on every week during the trimesters, on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, as an incentive for students to get all of their homework turned in. It's not about A's, B's, and C's. It's like, if you have every piece of your homework turned in, you get an opportunity to earn an extra lunch. And at the middle school, lunches are, you have a 30-minute set time where you can eat whenever you want to. You can go play outside the whole time. It doesn't matter. We don't structure that part of it. You just have a 30-minute time for your lunch and your break. So if you earn a free lunch, all the 6th graders have a free lunch on Tuesday, 7th graders have their free lunchtime on Wednesday, and 8th graders have their free lunch on Thursday. And so every week, you will have kids who get little slips of paper saying that they've earned a free lunch, because they have all their homework assignments in. It's not enough to impact our overall programs or anything like that as far as that goes, because, kids have missing assignments. Mm-hmm. Well, last week, the teachers asked, are we going to do our Eagle lunch? Because if we did, that means every kid would get Eagle lunch, because It's the first of the trimester and nobody has missing assignments. I said, absolutely, we are going to do Eagle lunch, because we're going to make sure that every student knows what they're missing out on when they don't turn in their homework. We're going to make sure of that. So everybody gets a free lunch. It's your advisory time. Your advisory comes out. Everybody is going to get that hour lunch on their specific days, and teachers come out and help us monitor and things like that. And we did. And every student got an hour lunch one day last week. And I will tell you how many students who have never had a free lunch have come up and started to talk to teachers, myself, and tell me, I really liked having an extra lunch. I'm going to get my homework in so I can do that again. I want to do it again. And then I started to have people show me their extra lunch slips that they got. Look, I got another one. I got another one for this week too. And they were super excited. And then I had a teacher tell me that they gave a student a Golden Eagle card because for the first time in that student's life, they had straight A's.
Wow.
And they got a Golden Eagle card for the very first time. These are the kind of things that we're looking at. We can do all the song and dances that we want. We can have the most engaging curriculum that we want for students. But ultimately, until they begin to see the value of what education means to them, they're not going to buy into what it looks like. And I'm hoping that through the programs that we have and that we are investing in, we are starting to encourage that value of getting in the missing work, of getting decent grades. being prepared for what school looks like. And overall, that will lead to the grit that we start to see with our great students. So that is March in a nutshell for us.
That's a lot. That's a big
Yeah.
nutshell. You
Yeah.
guys have been doing a lot. Can you tell me a little bit about math night? Is that just for like students to come in with their parents and kind of get extra help, or like, is it like an activity?
Yeah, so the family math night coming up in
Yes,
May.
yeah.
Yes, and actually, so I'm not part of planning that, but I can tell you what it was last year, and I think they're gonna try and do something very similar. So let me know. Oh, you guys know too a little bit, right? Perfect. They're on the committee as well. So it is something for the entire community to come out to. We're gonna have activities in both the middle school and the elementary buildings. The garden will be available. We're gonna give out plants. Is that correct? Heidi was telling me she has hundreds of starts. Is that correct? Not me, but I think you were talking to a group we were in, and there's like hundreds of starts and plants and things like that. So it is a very big family and community event that we want to have all of our kids and their families come out to. Yes.
Yeah.
Pizza this year. There's activities and what was that?
There'll be a raffle as well.
A raffle, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, many different fun things.
May 30th?
That's in May, correct? May 30th. Okay.
If I remember correctly, we had about 400
Yes,
last year
Yeah.
attend.
I believe so.
I was just thinking that must have been the night I came out and got all of those plant starts last year. I had so many tomatoes.
Yeah, we had over 1,000 plants last year.
That's amazing. Yeah, there was tons of people here. The parking lots were full. So that's
yeah.
awesome. I'm excited that you guys are doing that again. I also love that you stood by we're doing it for everybody, even if it is day one and everybody gets one, because it takes a minute to not only support what you guys are saying, right? You're, as far as the students are concerned, right? You're putting your money where your mouth is. You're saying like, this is the thing we're going to do. But you're also taking that opportunity to show everybody who hasn't participated the what's in it for me, which I think is going to be amazing in the way that you guys can like really gain a lot of traction. Obviously, you've already seen it, but I just have to applaud you for saying like, it doesn't matter. This is what we said we were going to do.
Right.
So if every student gets it, then every student gets it and we'll make that work. So I just think that that's awesome because again, you've proven that you're doing, you're walking the talk and encouraging through like participation. So
Yes.
it's awesome.
Exactly. Thank you.
I can agree with all that with both schools. Actually, you guys are setting really fun goals and incentives for the kids to want to be involved and meet their goals every week and every day. So, and for all the kids, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's good.
Definitely.
I always appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I want to add to that. So that's something that in the industrial world, I know that incentivizing folks is really something that a lot of workers
Right.
like to see.
Yes.
And, I mean, it's something that we're building that will follow through.
Right. It was something very special as I was filling out I was signing all of the honor roll certificates. And my secretary Patty had clicked. We have regular blue Eagle cards, and then we have these royal blue foil Eagle cards, which are extra special. And then even more special than that are the golden Eagle cards. And as we have those clicked to each certificate, I'm writing all the student names on it. It made it seem so much more official. And then the cool thing about that is that Jeff and I get to take those 4.0 students out for lunch. And we're gonna have to call ahead and let them know we have a major group coming in to take those 4.0 kids. So it's exciting to celebrate student achievement in that manner.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next we've got Chris joining us with business operations.
All right, hey guys. All right, so I'm going over the financials for February of 2024. And there's a couple, as I'm going through the financial summary report, I'm gonna flip myself back to the budget status report. I have a couple notes written here. Most of them are just about the general fund balance, though, on the first part. For the general fund in in February, we had $1,374,000 of revenues, $1,311,000 of expenditures, leaving our ending fund balance at $748,000. Capital projects fund, we paid our first bigger invoice on the district office. If that's what the expenditures there are. The revenues, that's the reimbursement for those expenditures, and a little bit of reimbursement for expenditures a couple of months ago. Our ending fund balance there is $115,000. In that fund, a lot of the activity is going to happen in March. So I sat down with Lloyd, our maintenance director, and we talked about, we received a bill from KCDA for the remainder of the building. He was comfortable with paying 75% because there's some finished work and work like that still needs to be done. I'm sure Jeff either gave you guys an update at the work session or tonight. But so we agreed to pay 75% of that. That'll be about 1.2 million coming out in March. We also received the reimbursement for that here in the next couple of days. So the ending fund balance in the capital projects fund should remain right around 115,000 up until our ESSER funding is gone. And I'm actually going to have you guys flip back to the general fund. Our ending fund balance now is $750,000, which is kind of low, but that's not taking into account that April is our biggest tax revenue month. With our projections, we should bring in about $850,000 that month, which will bring us to a conservative estimate would be 1.3 million. So our April ending fund balance in the general fund, 1.3. I'm guessing about 1.5. I'm projecting, not guessing, about 1.5. So we should see our financials will look a little bit better once we see our big tax collection month.
Can I ask a quick question about that? So for the budgeted revenue relative to our actual for the year, are we like on track for hitting that cap? Like when you factor in the April push that we're kind of expecting?
Yes.
Okay.
So this budget status report is through February. That's half of our fiscal year. Right about, we're at 53% here. So that means we're ahead of schedule on that. So if that continues, we should be about 6% above our budget, which is roughly 500,000 of our budgeted revenue. So then that would go to, well, depending on our actual expenditures, that impacts our ending fund balance.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next fund, skipping back ahead to the debt service fund. Not much activity goes on here. $108,000 of tax revenues, no expenditures. The ending fund balance is just about 490,000. There's only one, actually a couple of expenditures remaining in that fund, and that will be our June bond. It'll be our June interest payment on our bond, which is about $475,000. The debt service fund has a healthy balance, so it's healthy. Next one, ASB fund, $1,725 in revenues, $973 in expenditures. The ending fund balance is $46,500. And that's just mainly middle school dances and a few other fundraisers like that. Last is the transportation vehicle fund. For February, there was $1,015 of interest revenues, no other activity. But we do have most of the activity in that fund. Won't show up at next month's board meeting. It'll happen in April, be presented to you in May. But they'll make the payments, or we'll pay the invoices on the new electric buses, and then the revenues for the grant should follow that shortly. So that fund, again, that fund's healthy. We have 336,000 in there now. So we'll probably, excuse me, we get the OSPI depreciation payment in August, which is, I want to say, I just looked at this today, about $120,000. So that will go into fund balance. We should remain about, above 300,000 in that fund. And as I just mentioned, I started working on budget stuff this year, or for next year. That's one of the areas that Jeff and I are going to discuss, because we have some funds in there and we can do stuff with that. That was it that I had on there. There wasn't really anything in the board or in the charts that I wanted to point out. The revenue, the percentages will start to shift here with the tax revenues coming in. You'll see a larger percentage of local taxes, and then after April, we'll start going. And that is it. I'm not really, I didn't plan on talking about any of the specific lines on the budget status report, but if you guys have any questions, please ask me.
Good job on the,
Thank you. That's been a little bit, but thank you.
Awesome. Any questions or anything? All right, thanks, Chris. Jeff, you got the superintendent report.
Yeah, so you have in your packet, the update, and so some of this will be a little repetitive, but if you recall, we had CGI Digital out last Thursday and they were here from 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock, filming all the different activities and programs in both buildings to create what will be our 60-second promo for our school district that will end up on the Mason County website. About 2 weeks from now, they should send, it's right now, all of that filming that they took, video is now being looked at and will create a sample for us. They'll send it back out. We'll take a look at it just to make sure it's capturing everything we want. And then eventually we'll get a final product. So it was kind of exciting. He was, the videographer was in classrooms, in the cafeteria, out in the garden. So we had a few teachers that made some comments. We'll see if that remains in there. So I do want to acknowledge our Pioneer Kiwanis Club. If you were there Saturday night, very successful seafood dinner and auction. And of course, you know how much that event helps support not only our students in our school, but now our staff. It provides the scholarships. For the first time this year, we had adults, staff members receive some scholarships from Pioneer Kiwanis Club to continue their education, as well as everything they do for us. So thanks to all of you who attended. Thanks to all of you who worked and volunteered your time to be there. We will be working on a professional development needs assessment. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the latest BLT minutes from our meeting last week, but a lot of brainstorming on future professional development needs. And so from that group, and there's 16 members in our district leadership team, we will create later in April a needs assessment for all of our staff looking forward to next year, because if the calendar is approved tonight, you will notice that we have more professional development time built into next year's calendar for both certified and classified. So the best thing we can do is ask our staff what their needs are and then build our professional development program around that. So I will share those results with you when the time comes. Our next community dinner is scheduled for May 9th. We are doing it in conjunction with the first talent show. So we are working on having a talent show in here in our community dinner. So more to follow, but that'll be May 9th, again, 5:30 till about 7 o'clock. We've talked about the menu, but it's a work in progress. Building updates in your packet, but the sheetrock person is still in there finishing up, should be texturing and will be painting. After that's done, we have the fire suppression company that will be coming in and doing all of the overhead work for fire alarm systems, hood canal, Communications will be in there working on all the low voltage work. The excavator should be out tomorrow to work on the septic dig out. And then once that's done, then the pipes will be connected and we'll have that ready to go. The excavator will also start moving dirt and filling in around the moat. We call it the moat around the district office. And then hauling the rest of the dirt away. Concrete people will come out. They're going to come out and do 2 phases. They're going to come out during spring break and do a couple pours on our shot put and discus rings. And then we have a sidewalk that we're expanding over at the elementary school. And then they'll come back later when everything's done. And when you enter the bus, these guys probably don't know this, but where kids cut across the bark dust to go to the back door of the cafeteria, we're going to concrete all that in. So then they'll come back and do the sidewalk and the pad around the building. So other than that, we don't have a move-in date. Once that work all gets done, then Lloyd and I will go through and do what's called the punch list and make sure that every little hairline crack is covered up and all the paint blends together and there's no, there's no mistakes that we get what we paid for. So, probably realistically, we're looking at maybe the second week of May, if I was to predict. And then one of the decisions we'll make is, okay, do we really want to move in with 4 weeks of school left, or do we just want to wait till school's out and then move in? So we'll have that discussion with our district administrative team as we get closer. So other than that, I do believe everybody's really looking forward to spring break. For some people, it can't come soon enough. So
Jeff, do you need to get an occupancy permit from the county before?
they'll have to come and do a final inspection before they turn the keys over. Yes. Yeah. They'll have a couple of other inspections, like they'll have to come out and do the inspection on the fire suppression system. They'll have to do a inspection on the septic system. Once that's all hooked up. And then when everything is done, the county will give us that final, yes, you can have the building. Any questions or?
You mentioned the new calendar on here and the additional costs for that. Is that, I had an opportunity to look at it earlier in the agenda, but that's just is that just because there's that extra week off in February and then like kind of built in those other days?
No, it's the addition of 4 full professional development days.
Okay.
So that will be the additional cost. But again, when we talk to staff, both classified and certified, about the number one thing is we just need more time.
Mm-hmm.
We need more time for professional development. We need more time to work on our instructional practices, look at data, because our early release Wednesdays are really good. But by the time we get the kids on the bus and get settled in, there's usually about an hour and 15 minutes or so to do the work. And so this will give us a full 7.5 hour day, 4 full days during the year to offer professional development. So those are additional costs that Chris and I will be figuring out how we're going to pay for it next year.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. We are moving on to our discussion and action items. Up first is the approval of the 2024-2025 school calendar. Has everybody had a chance to look at that? Is there any discussion pertaining to that?
I move that we accept the school calendar option 3.2 for 2024-25 as presented to us.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. No opposed, so the motion passes. Up next is approval of the iReady math adoption for K-8. Any additional, we got to kind of hear from them earlier, but any other discussion?
I think it's a good curriculum. I I kind of wish we would have had more opportunity to review the books other than the couple of times that we did. But I know we're familiar with it here in the district, and so I think it's a good choice to stick with what we're familiar with and what's been working for our students.
Excellent.
I'm kind of excited about the opportunity for them to have the professional development again, because I think you're right that the timing before was pretty disastrous, and it's great now to have used it for a while and really understand what kind of PD you want and get out of it. So I think that was a good use of the issue.
Excellent. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the iReady math adoption?
I move that we adopt iReady curriculum as presented to us tonight by principals and the committee.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you. Up next is the approval of resolution 02-2024 for reduction in force for certified staff. Do we have any discussion?
Again, just a reminder, this is a legal obligation. It does not mean that we are reducing staff at this point in time, but in the event that we do down the road, that we have these resolutions in place.
Thank you.
Yeah, we.
And this is an annual process, right?
Yes,
We do this every year.
yes.
Yeah, and we discussed this in our workshop.
Yep.
If you're ready for a motion,
All right. Excellent. Do I have a motion to approve?
I have a motion. I make a motion to approve the reduction in force for, what are you doing first? Certified?
Certified,
Yep,
yeah.
For
certificated.
certified employees.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. No opposed. That motion passes. Up next is approval for the reduction in force for classified staff. Do I have a motion to approve that reduction?
Motion approved.
Thank you.
Second.
And second, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion passes as well. Up next is the Pioneer School District 2023-2024 Audit Exit Conference information. This is not an action item.
Okay, so you guys should all have copies of the exit conference packet. There's just a few things I'm going to point out. A lot of it's tentative language. I'm sure if you really want to, but I'm going to point out a few of the highlights. The first 3 pages are what was used as the exit conference agenda. So they just kind of went through this and along with the PowerPoint and talked through our audit. The first thing is the audit reports, that heading. So they looked at our financials and our federal grants this year. They tested compliance with the federal grant requirements. For this year, they tested ESSER again. This might have been the 3rd year in a row. But they will probably do that again next year because of the district office. So I'm getting pretty used to it. But this is from an audit over last fiscal year. The audit highlights there, they just talked about us addressing our corrective action plan, as well as just the cleanliness that we've brought, the improvements we've made from last year to this year. I guess one example of that is time and effort got called out as an issue last year. Time and effort is basically employees certifying that they worked in a certain program, whether the requirements of most federal programs. So Amy Coster and Becky did a lot of work, and Becky Guilford did a lot of work to get a process implemented, because ours kind of, with a lot of the staff turnover that happened during COVID, those processes were kind of lost. So they got that re-implemented. They talked to James, who was our auditor, and he liked the system that that they implemented. So they really talked about that and how we're taking the initiative to make sure we do things correctly. The financial statement audit communication, There was no material misstatements. There was just a couple of minor wording things in the notes to the financials, and then the CFA notes, which is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So that's all of our federal funding. Just a couple of typos, but those have all been corrected, and the corrections are included in the final reports. Finalizing our audit. So report publication, I actually just got an email a couple hours ago saying that it will be published on the 28th, so this Thursday. It will be available to the public. We have draft copies included in this until Wednesday. Next thing was the audit cost. We were quoted and we budgeted for $24,000 this year. The audit ended up coming in $2,000 short of that, so it cost us $22,000, which was nice, a little bit of cost savings there. Our next scheduled audit is going to be probably February or March of 2025. And that one will be a financial federal audit as well, again. And it will also include an accountability audit, which looks at a lot of our internal systems. They look at ASB, they'll look at key accounting systems, such as like the system. They'll look at major processes like credit cards, purchases, accounts payable, payroll. They look at all the big processes. So that one is about double the cost. They put about as much time into the accountability audits as they do the financial federal audits. And you'll see that reflected. The estimated cost for our next audit is $37,000 plus travel expenses, which that's usually a couple of $1,000s. James was here, I want to say 4 days, and I don't know if it was $1,000 for all 4 of those days. But we have a big audit coming up, and so we have to pay, kind of like our insurance. It's unfortunate. The rest of that, they put out an audit survey, and then they call out a couple of resources, mainly for like school finance or city, public entity finance departments. But if you guys want to take a look around there, feel free. And then the rest of it is all draft reports. So the first one is a summary. And let's see, starts on page 7. This just talks about all of our results, and I'm not going to flip through the rest of the packet. I'm just going to read from this page. The financial statements, they issued an unmodified opinion. Unmodified is good. So as I said, there was no material misstatements. Everything was reported correctly there. The internal controls over financial reporting, so look at that. They reported no deficiencies in the design or operation of internal controls or financial reporting. They identified no deficiencies that they consider to be material weaknesses. And then they noted no instances of non-compliance. And then federal awards is the next section. Same there, no deficiencies in the design or operation of the controls, no deficiencies that they consider material. And then the next page just gives a little bit more information about what they, the guidance or the requirements that they're auditing to, as well as the actual program they looked at. It looks weird, COVID-19, which is I think there's 3 or 4 different programs that we call included in that, but the major one for this year was ESSER 2. And that is really it. I guess one more thing, the last couple of pages is a management representation letter, which Jeff and I signed. And it's just us certifying that we provided information to all the information to the auditors. We're certifying everything that we turned into them is accurate and correct. A lot of the procedural sign off on it. But yeah, that was it. Are there any questions about the audit?
I do want to thank Robert and Rebecca for taking the time, even though it wasn't a long presentation, but thank you for sitting in. I do also want to just publicly reference the compliment that the auditors paid to Chris and the work he did. Very well done. So, it sounded like you really made the auditor's job a little easier by providing all the information and gathering that for them. So nice work on that.
Yeah, Chris,
Being more organized too.
Yes.
Being able to look back and see what I was trying to do rather than look back at my first couple of months of work.
Yeah.
So that also helps, but yeah.
Right?
What was that?
An easier time to be audited than last
Yes.
time.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You stepped into all the previous.
Yeah.
Pieces. of
Yeah,
puzzle.
the first couple of audits were rough, but this one, yeah, James and I worked really well together and, he got me what I needed and I got it back to him pretty quick. So it was, all in all, it was probably about 2.5 weeks worth of, I responded to a few emails a day of his and then he was here on site. So it was very nice. Last year, I want to say it was 1.5. But that, again, that's accountability. So next year, I'm not looking forward to it.
Well, well done. It sounds like it went really well. So,
Yeah, great job. I was happy to hear them say that it's rare that they get them that perfect. So, good job in that rare case.
okay. So up next, we're actually moving to new business since we adjusted the agenda earlier today. So do we have any new business? Okay. Any board share? No?
Keep up the great work. everyone. Fantastic.
Yeah, I love hearing all the good
Success
stuff.
stories and all the growth of our students in both schools and the excitement that I hear that they're having over goals being achieved and what they get out of it.
Yeah, great motivation, right?
Yeah,
Awesome.
especially for the future, keep them motivated now and hopefully it'll stick with them through their life. Yeah.
Awesome.
I really liked, hearing that attendance is improving and that the kids are being offered marks for their attendance and they're excited about it and homework.
Yep.
It's everything is turning around and looking so positive. And here we are rounding the corner at the end of the school year and looking forward to next school year where our kids are that much closer to an even start. They've been starting behind the 8 ball the last few years and it's a long process, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, well, both of your point, right, about motivation and like seeing that turnaround, it's going to be great to be able to see the students that will still be here next year, right? And how that shifts. I think it's just going to keep growing, right? Because we're laying the groundwork. We've got the groundwork. And so now it'll be fun to watch how do this year's 6th graders do is 7th grade, like starting off that new school year, having this 6th grade foundation for what was done. I'm excited to see that. I think it's going to be really cool. A good start to the next year.
If I could make one, I'm not a board member, but I'll make one comment. I think the evidence is consistency and leadership in our building. I think what's made the biggest impact so far in this journey is we've been able to maintain our leadership in the buildings for 2 years in a row. We've maintained our district leadership team for 2 years in a row. And we've maintained our teaching and classified support staffs for the most part intact for 2 years. If you remember that very first year we were all together, we sat in here in August and we hired 54 new people to our district.
Yep.
Last year, I believe the number went down to 13. And this year, right now, we're looking at about 6, which tells me people are making a difference by, one, this is a great place for staff to work. And I think they feel very supported. And I think too, that consistency of, boy, if we can continue to keep our staff here, that's the best thing for kids, is that consistency of not only our certified staff, but our classified staff. So I think that's contributed a lot, both leadership at the building level and leadership at the district level with being consistent.
Awesome.
Keep that going.
Yeah. Excellent.
Feels good.
It does feel good. Yeah. Okay, up next, we are moving into executive session, so we will be stepping away from here. Currently scheduled for 20 minutes, but we can extend as needed.
down to.
Grab all my things here. You can leave this here. Well, we all have to sign it, so.
Mr. Davis, did you want to keep, we have to keep the meeting going, right? Do you want the mics on? I didn't know for our last week. Oh, no. They made that a little. No. No, it's true. Oh.
Okay. Thank you. We're officially back from executive session. We are not going to extend that time. At this time, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you. And a
I
second?
the motion.
Excellent. It has been moved and seconded and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
It's almost 8 o'clock.
No, I can't believe it's that close.
This was,
There.
before the
Oh,
STEM
yeah,
teacher left
yeah.
with us.
Let the kids all take it.
Yeah, I know, sound.